For the rest of the hour.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
By the way, listen, if anybody's been triggered by hearing these Donald Trump clips, I know I have.
Yeah.
Just remember, the real villain here is Michael Bloomberg. Because if Michael Bloomberg really wanted to help America, he'd buy Fox News before lunch. He wouldn't even feel the pinch.
Yeah.
He'd buy Fox News, and that would slow things down quite a bit.
Yep.
But
Well,
hey,
Fox News might have a fire sale after this $1.6 billion lawsuit goes through.
Yeah.
I know. How scared was Laura Ingraham that Donald Trump was calling up and pushing Dominion lies again last night?
Yeah.
I mean, my God. They're all going to be doing the Sidney Powell. When I say Sidney Powell defense, I mean the Tucker Carlson defense. But yeah, Your Honor, what kind of a stooge would believe something I said?
Oh.
It's like a really dumb Nuremberg excuse, you know?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That still baffles me that she would actually go in there and say that. I mean,
Why does it
she's a
baffle
lawyer,
you?
right?
Every day, Sidney Powell and future disbarred lawyer Rudy Giuliani would go and give a press conference and say that there's all this election fraud.
Mhm.
And then they would go in the actual courtrooms and state to the judges, we're not claiming there's election fraud.
Yeah.
And then they would come out and they would state for the cameras that there was election fraud. And
Yeah.
this is the racket. This is why whenever there's a confirmation hearing, you'll see like the Matt Gaetzes or the Jim Jordans or the, Ratcliffe or whatever, waste of donor organs, how they'll just get so theatrical and pompous. And it's not for the actual hearing. It's because they want to have a clip on OAN or Fox that night. That's all this stuff is about.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping the cult happy. It's short-term happiness for long-term fascism, and they're losing. And we have to keep the pressure on, and people can't check out now because they're going to get worse.
Well, it's performance. Like you said, it's performance art. Did you see? I'm sorry, I'm going to jump ahead to something, Chris. The last clip, the Ted Cruz from last night. Did you see what Ted Cruz did last night?
With the mask?
No, he went out down by the Rio Grande River and filmed himself after midnight. It was like Blair Witch, spotlight on him saying, we're down by the Rio Grande River right now. We can hear the coyotes on the other. Just play a little bit of this. It's a bit long.
So it's past midnight. I'm standing on the shore of the Rio Grande. The water is right behind me. I'm down on the Texas border along with 18 senators. We made the trip to see the crisis that is playing out. We've already gone to detention facilities that are overrun. Many of them with families, small children. We saw multiple mothers who were nursing infant babies who had just crossed over.
Infant babies.
And were being housed in outdoor holding pens where they were sleeping on the floor and nursing their babies. We're at the edge of the river.
I think we've heard enough of Ted Cruz pretending to care about people that he called illegals and infestation. I have it on good authority that those mothers and children were they're all Mexican politicians, and they were only crossing the border to stay at the Four Seasons San Antonio. I have it on good authority. That's all that was. Now they're embarrassed and they're going to race back, and their voters won't care. I mean, wow, what Ted Cruz will do to keep his job.
It was just Morning Joe this morning. They played it and they interspliced it with clips of the crocodile hunter and him out in the woods, like looking for wild animals and stuff like that. It was that, like you said, they go on into these hearings, the Gaetzes and the Jim Jordans and the Ted Cruzes, and they kick up all this dirt. We had McCarthy go down to the border last week, and crying crocodile tears that they didn't care about.
Yeah, and it's not theater because theater creates jobs. But what they're doing is like, keep in mind, they're the ones who call them illegals.
Right.
An infestation.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to humanize them and say this cruel, cruel President Biden.
Yeah.
Like just an absolute flip-flop. Here's the deal. Any politician who ever warns you about illegals but doesn't want to lock up the white Americans who hire said illegals is running a con on you. Now, I don't call them illegals. By the way, these people are all racist. They have never called a white lawbreaker an illegal in their life. Donald Trump is an illegal. He's hired undocumented workers in 2 different centuries. Donald Trump stole from vets with his fraud university. I mean, technically, Trevor, if you drive 56 in a 55 zone, you're an illegal, but that term is reserved to dehumanize desperate brown people who are actually Christian refugees. Whenever they go and raid some meat processing plant and they say they locked up 165 undocumented workers in the plant, they never lock up the white guys who are counting the money on the ground floor.
That's right.
So, we don't need a wall. If this is really a problem, then you need to take down America's gigantic help wanted sign at the border. It's supply and demand 101. If you want them to stop crossing the border for our jobs, you take away the jobs.
Yeah.
And you start locking up the people who do the hiring. They'll never do it because the dirty secret of our economy is that it's always been propped up by exploiting labor, generally among women, brown people, and brown women, from slavery to Triangle Shirtwaist Fire to the children in China putting together our electronic doohickeys, undocumented labor. They need the help wanted sign, so they talk about a wall. None of them need. And Donald Trump has hired undocumented workers in 2 different centuries. This is the racism. This is why we call it that. And again, they're not going to ask people to pay a living wage to American workers. They're not going to call for that. So it's going to keep on keeping on. And the people who are racist will believe what they want to believe because they're racist.
Yep.
Right. And to your point, Biden is working. This is one of the big points that came up in the press conference yesterday. Biden is working, trying to fix the system that was dismantled down there at the border. And it's not just the border. It's in their home countries where we were working with people to either process them before they left to verify that, yes, you can come to the United States. Those systems are not in place anymore. He gutted what we were doing at the border to house these people. He reduced bed capacity. He wouldn't send HHS down there. Biden got some questions about this.
He did more than that, too, if I may. Barack Obama, for all of his flaws on this issue, he moved them out quickly, and he reunited them with families quickly. He didn't keep them there for months at $700 per bed per night cost to taxpayers. Trust me. Right. These detention centers were a money-making racket for donors and Trump's friends.
Absolutely.
We can't leave that part out.
Yeah, I believe, who was it? It was John Kelly when he left being the chief of staff at the White House. He went to work for one of these facilities, or was on the board of one of these facilities. So he was making money off of this plan that he helped implement. Let's play number 2, Biden talking about what's going on at the border.
The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States yesterday to be the lead person on dealing with focusing on the fundamental reasons why people leave Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador in the first place.
And let's do number 3 as well.
Our drug war is why they leave in the first place. I've done stand up for the troops in El Salvador and Honduras. You know why we have troops in El Salvador and Honduras in 2021?
Drug war.
Because of Ronald Reagan's drug war.
Yeah.
The Air Force base I played in Honduras was made of wood in the 80s, and termites are literally eating it now. There's your metaphor for our drug war. I mean, you don't like migrants at the border? Then take away the drug war and take away the power from the men who are tormenting them. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's the gangs down there that they're on the run from, and that's like I said, that's the drugs. Let's go to number 3.
He in fact shut down the number of beds available. He did not fund HHS to get the children out of those border patrol facilities where they should not be and not supposed to be more than a few days, a little while. But he dismantled all of that. And so what we're doing now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today.
And I think we can't underestimate how much Donald Trump did on the way out, like from these people that he put in at the Pentagon to, breaking down Border Patrol, defunding these organizations, these groups that are supposed to help with this stuff. I mean, look at what happened with the COVID. He pulled our people off the ground in China. Yeah. It's like it was like not only did he ruin everything, but it's like he set booby traps all over the place.
Oh yeah, and by the way, like Trump's vaccinations, this was all done off camera, so people wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, and Trump did a lot. a lot to run interference for some of the stuff that was going on at the local and state levels. Like this, like we're really focused on this Georgia thing right now. We can't be focused on that because we don't have Trump in the White House kicking up dust and doing it, because you know that he would have done a crazy tweet yesterday afternoon just to provide some coverage for what was going on in Georgia.
And again, like, you know, Georgia, it's amazing. Like, the Republicans who told the truth in Georgia and said that there was no election fraud are now paying a price for telling the truth. So they're joining the lie. This bill was called the Election Integrity Act.
Yeah.
And it was done by the same people who swore by the integrity of their own election 2 months ago.
Right.
Like, these people are craven, and they are slaves to the Marjorie Taylor Greene wing of their party. They have nothing to offer conservative white people, because all conservatism means now is blind obedience to Trump and owning the libs. And that's all they stand for. That's all they fight for. They have nothing to offer. And that's why you're going to hear a lot about Antifa and China virus and, you know, and mental illness whenever a white guy kills a lot of people. It's all going to be deflection.
We played it yesterday. We played a bunch of clips of Mitch McConnell talking about how him and Chuck Schumer were debating SR1, the Senate version of HR1. They were debating it, and Mitch kept saying, "Oh, well, this is a solution in search of a problem." Well, no, this bill in Georgia is a solution in search of a problem, literally, because, as you said, there were no issues with the election. It wasn't.
Well, this bill in Georgia is a solution to no problem.
Right.
Like, this is creating the problem because, you know, no problem is a problem for, you know, Republicans in Georgia. I mean, there's two ways we can do it. One, we can clone Stacey Abrams 49 times so every state has one of her. This is what I stand. This is my position. I'm
all in.
Or we can pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which will make it very easy for every American. Hear this. This is how crazy is this? Every American can vote easily for whoever they want to vote for, and it kills gerrymandering. I mean, can you imagine the lengths the Republican Party is going to go to not let this become law? I mean, can you imagine the money that Joe Manchin's going to be offered to help kill this thing on the floor of the Senate? That's why this filibuster has to go, and it's why Biden's right. Bring back the talking filibuster. That's our only hope at this point.
Let's go with that, because Biden did take a few questions yesterday about the filibuster. Here we go in clip number 6.
It used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down, and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum, and vote. So I strongly support moving in that direction, in addition to having an open mind about dealing with certain things that are just elemental to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote.
I hope Biden gets an open mind about weed, because if we get back to a talking filibuster, a lot of folks are going to need some to watch Ted Cruz lecture for 19 hours straight.
If we legalize weed, John Boner might just go back to the house so he could smoke a doob and go out there on the floor.
The way a talking filibuster used to be, they used to have to talk on the subject at hand. They couldn't just get up there and read Green Eggs and Ham.
Bernie Sanders did a great one a couple of years ago, and they published it as a book, and he talked all about it, and it's a great idea. But you always could, though. You could read recipes. I mean, that's happened in the past. You can go off script about it, but they should have to explain it, and the Republicans have it really easy because their base doesn't care.
Right.
Their base does not care that these guys lie to them and rip them off. They just like to be told what they want to hear. They're the tragic role of the frat party.
Yeah. The one thing I like about the talking filibuster is that if they're going to go out there and just be a clown show and read Green Eggs and Ham, then we get to call them out. We get to point out, look, this is they can't even justify why they're filibustering this. They're just going to stand there and talk to hear themselves talk. They're going to be doing performance art.
By the way, what's funnier than Mitch McConnell talking about the Senate rules? Like Mitch McConnell hasn't even seen the Senate rules since he used it to wipe himself when he changed the Supreme Court to only have 8 judges for 1 year.
Yeah.
That's how much he cares about the Senate rules. I mean, in fairness to Mitch McConnell, he's looked like that ever since, he looked inside the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
But we want movement on guns, on anything. Filibuster's got to change, or it's got to go, or someone's got to get pictures of Joe Manchin with a goat. One of those things has to happen.
It's West Virginia. It could happen.
No, I think we got to kill a filibuster.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
And by the way, can I just say I'm old enough now to remember the expression it's been X number of weeks since the last mass shooting. We saw it happen again this week. Immediately after Boulder, the NRA announces that Biden's coming for your guns. People believe it, and they buy more guns. The gun manufacturers made more massive profits after yet another massacre. It's all still the same racket.
Yeah.
And yet we're told, well, you don't have a constitutional right to a job or housing or healthcare because that stuff's not as pro-America as an AR-15.
Right. Well, and just to add to that, 3 smaller stories, and thankfully no one was hurt in these 3 stories. But we had the story, I believe it was on Monday, where the guy held the National Guard at gunpoint because he thought first of all, he thought there were women and children in the vans when they were transporting COVID vaccine. Then we had the situation in Atlanta where
by the way, that's great. That was that you missaid a well-regulated militia held up the national.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the story, I believe it was on Wednesday, where the guy walked into the Publix grocery store in Atlanta wearing body armor and carrying 5 guns.
Yeah.
And the police came in, they took him out, he was removed. Then yesterday, a man with body armor, guns, and possible explosives in his car walked into the University of Kentucky hospital. And police arrested him on the way out. And thankfully, no one else was hurt in any of these situations. But these people testing the gun laws or their right to carry, it's freaking me out. Like that to me, because the only difference between them and the guy in Colorado was that he pulled the trigger.
Yeah, well, it's a response to what happened in Hawaii this week with the Ninth Circuit, which is not a liberal court. Donald Trump put 10 judges on it. And it also shows that most of us should feel a lot better about our penis size. Really. I mean, I never knew how confident I was until I saw these guys terrified of wearing a mask.
Yeah.
That guy in Atlanta needed 5 guns. He is micro.
Oh, forget it. Yeah, I mean, 5 guns, in case like there's a run on gluten-free waffles in Publix.
Yeah.
I mean,
and by the way, these same people, these same racists this week who are also delighted that the shooter's name was Ahmad al-Alawi Alisa, these are the same exact people who have been fighting for Ahmad al-Alawi Alisa to have easy access to a gun. It's
correct.
Like you can hate these people or you can say civilians don't get these guns. You can't do both.
Right. 100%.
Good morning, dear.
Oh, cut!
We have a lot to celebrate this week.
You have the right to remain tripping your balls.
It's like Illuminati, but with leather.
First day at Fight Club, you must fight!
2020 refuses to concede.
I was going to have to return 2021 because I didn't like the 7-day trial. But I'm in now. We're in, sexy liberals.